Oh my goodness, Bibi, thank you so much for coming onto the show today. I am so excited to have you here.
Hi, Deanna. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, you know what? You have such a unique product, and I can't wait to share it with everybody and also learn a little bit more about Culture to Color. I I've got so many questions for you.
Okay.
So many
Well,
questions, so I hope you're ready.
I am ready.
So
Yeah.
can you first off just introduce yourself a little bit and what is Culture to Color for somebody who's listening in going, what is she
Yeah,
talking about?
sure. So I'm Bibi LeBlanc. I'm the founder and CEO of Culture to Color, and we are a boutique marketing company, and we specialize in creating explainer coloring books for businesses and organizations. So, for example, here's a little book that we did for a local salon owner, and these are some of her customers, and then they have text and images. And so that's why we call them explainer coloring books. And also because we want to differentiate um, us with that, because whenever people hear coloring books, they immediately go to kids, and they're not specific. We've done a couple of children's coloring books, but typically they're not. They're marketing tools for businesses and organizations and destinations, you name it.
And
So,
that's so interesting because when I hear coloring books, the very first thing I think about is when I was a kid. And I love
yeah,
coloring books. So
yeah. You still color?
I do still color. Yes, I do. And
It's
I
okay to
enjoy it.
admit to that.
I really do. I enjoy it. And yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I love to color. I can sit there and color with
Yeah,
my great nephews when I'm back home in Ohio because they like to color. Of course,
yeah,
you know, they're under the age of 5, the ones that I'm coloring with. So it looks a little bit different, but it's so much fun. And I think
yeah.
mentally you just kind of release. But we're going to get into all that. We're going to get into all that in a little bit.
Okay.
But how did you get into coloring books? What inspired you?
Yeah, that was not a path I set out on really with a lot of intention. It kind of just happened and evolved over time. We're now in our sixth year here, and it all started when I've always had a love of photography. So, and I've always taken a lot of pictures. I was a flight attendant for a while, so I always took my camera with me everywhere. And before I even moved to this country. And so I had a lot of pictures. And one day my sister-in-law said to me, if you ever want to show some of your photography, you can do it in the gallery here in California where she works. There's a little gallery in a small town that hosts like local artists typically, but she got me in there and I'm like, okay, that sounds great. And that was exciting. And so when I went there, I found a coloring book that a local photographer in that little town had created from his photos. And it had the local sites in it. And it was an adult coloring book. It had, the local sites with some like Zentangle patterns and things like that. And I thought that is such a cool idea. I would love to do something like that about the land, which is, where I've at that point lived for almost 30 years. And so when I came back, I thought about it not for long and just jumped in both both feet first and decided to do this coloring book. And then I wanted to not just have the coloring pages, but I wanted to give the people who bought it some background information about what they were coloring. So I wrote short little blurbs with what it was, and maybe a cute little anecdote here or there. And had so much fun doing that because I got to meet everybody, like I featured some of the local businesses we have here. Because here in DeLand, we have some unique businesses,
We have
between
great
Skydive DeLand
businesses,
and
yes.
the Reptile Discovery Center and those kinds of places. And I had so much fun talking to everybody that once I published the DeLand book, I decided to do more. And that's kind of how the whole thing got rolling. The ball got rolling. And I did a book about New Smyrna and Mount Dora. And then the fourth book this was 2019, was about Berlin, where I grew up during the Cold War. And, I did a book about that's called Berlin Divided, Berlin United, because that year was the 30th anniversary of the fall of the wall. And And then that book was the first one I did bilingual. It was English and German, and the first book that won a book award, and also the first one that made it to #1 Amazon bestseller. And so that was exciting. And so
Yeah.
I just kept going, you know.
That
That's how
is
I got started. So
just overnight just happened, right? Just real easy. Yeah.
yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
When I want to do something, I just will do it and see what happens, and
Right.
try it out.
Well, you're
And so,
6 years in, so
yeah,
it's still working, which is great.
yeah,
That's really good. So the name Culture to Color,
yeah.
explain that. How did you come up with that? Because I think it's the cutest name. It's so fitting, but how did you come up with that?
Yeah, well, because the first few books that we did were actually destinations, like you heard, small Florida towns, and then Berlin, and then we did one on Tuscany. And so we came up with a name fairly early on before all those books, but we talk about the local culture and the history, and some of the local sites, and it's all about culture. And
Mhm.
even and then of course it was, there were coloring books, so Culture to Color came from that. And so with the I had a thought and I lost my train of thought. But anyway, so even, we've transitioned since then into um, becoming a marketing company. And even when you talk about a business or an organization, we're still talking about the culture of that business or organization. So I think it's a fitting name. And we
Yeah,
have a lot
I
of
do
fun.
too. I think it's a great name. I definitely do. So earlier, and you just mentioned again now that these coloring books are used to market your business.
Mhm.
And we've talked about some of the different locations, and you showed Kamika's Kinks and Curls, her book. But talk a little bit more for somebody who's listening and maybe they weren't able to actually see the book that you held up. How can a coloring book market your business?
So we put, like, for example, here's another example. We did this one for a flooring company. And when Jason came to me and said, I want a coloring book about carpet and tile, in the back of my mind, I'm rolling my eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with that? But as you'll see, first of all, we created this little character here, and he's using them now everywhere. And it came out really cute. So for the market, so first of all, on the cover, we use their branding. It's their logos, their colors, everything is their branding. It has contact information. This is about the business. And then in the beginning, we have a welcome page that talks about where he can introduce the reader to this. And then it goes through we have the history of flooring. So again, you have some culture in there, right? So
Yes.
and then we just talk about different flooring materials. Can you see it okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You can see it great.
So, the pros and cons of different materials. And then again, in the back, we have an about us page, who we are in this case, and we have contact information. We have a QR code that can go anywhere to your website, or, a call to donate if you're a nonprofit organization, that kind of stuff. And then we also usually talk about, the benefits of coloring, because there are a lot of benefits, kids or adult, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
it's a great way to engage your customers or potential customers. It's an easy way to start a conversation and talk about different things. We have a different book for realtors, where a realtor can sit down with their customer and walk them through the process of buying a home. What happens in what order, and because it's an intimidating process when you first start it. So
Yeah, it
this is
is.
a good way to establish a connection with a potential home buyer, or whatever you're selling.
Right.
Whatever
And
you
what I really like about this is that this type of marketing piece isn't something that, you get and then you pitch it. It doesn't go right in the trash, right? Because let's face it, we've all been
Yes.
to certain conferences or different things, and
Yeah.
we get the brochure, we get the the flyer, we get the business card. We
Yeah.
might even get like the little things that you can take the top of lids off, take the lids off, right?
Yeah.
We get
Yeah.
all this stuff, but it goes somewhere, either in the trash or somewhere where we're not seeing it. But this
Yeah.
coloring book is something that people are actively pulling out and using.
Yes. And exactly, you're saying that it's like a brochure. I've thrown away so many brochures, but a little book, people
Yeah.
aren't going to throw that away as easily. If nothing else, they'll share it with some kids or share it with their neighbor, and talk about it. And so it gets a lot more exposure than any brochure or pen or, paper clip or whatever will
Yeah,
ever
right.
get. You know?
I think it's
And
great.
so,
It's so creative. And how does, when it comes to marketing, and it's so noisy, right? And
yeah,
being that I'm in marketing, I see it, I hear it. It's a noisy world. Everybody is trying to be seen right now. And they're trying to be seen on social media. They're trying to be seen, in traditional marketing. And what a really unique way to stand out to your, from your competitors, is to create something like this coloring book that can be used.
yeah. And we've all heard that saying, we do business with people who we know, like, and trust. And what better way to let your customers know about you and give them information about you and share your story or whatever it is you want to share.
Yeah. I think
There's
it's
so much
so neat.
more meat in it than in the traditional marketing
Right. Right.
area.
No,
Yeah.
I think today you've got to be creative. You can't
Mhm.
keep doing the things that we've done for so long, because people get bored with it, and they don't even notice it, because it's the
Mhm.
same old, where this is something very different.
Mhm. And
Now,
in the fast-paced world, this is also something that it slows you down a little bit, makes you more mindful and in the moment. When you sit and color a
oh,
page
that's
in
so
this,
cute.
isn't it? Yeah,
That is so cute. That's a great cover. Yeah.
yeah, love that image. And in the middle, it has the kids menu, also
Perfect.
in a colorable font. But so um, you spend more time. You get your customers or potential customers to spend more time with you because it takes some time to color an image.
Right.
They're not real simple designs as you've seen. you know,
Right. Right.
they really
They're
spend time with you rather than, maybe noticing your logo on the pen or something. And then, you
yeah.
know,
They're breaking that logo into tiny little parts and coloring
yes.
it in. They're paying really good attention to that. So
Yeah.
Bibi, can you walk me through like that whole creative process behind your coloring books? So let's just say I'm a business and I'm reaching out to you and I'm like, hey Bibi, I want a coloring book. I think this is really cool. When Jason did it, very unique. You're like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, right? What's that process look like?
So typically we sit down with a customer and see what the customer wants, what kind of feel he wants. Like his one, the flooring book has that cartoonish look more in it with the characters in there. Some like that, some don't. And so we kind of get a feel for what they want. We did a um, just brainstorming, really. What is it about? What do they want to convey? Like for some, it's about keeping a legacy alive or building a legacy. One lady had us create a family tree with a saxophone in it because her dad played the saxophone. And, it was a book about financial advice and education. And
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, but it came out really cute. I don't have it here right now, but it all depends on what the customer wants. We really try to listen to like the details and work them into the images, and the text too.
Yeah.
And so we sit down and come up with the concepts. Typically, a coloring book has either 8 coloring pages or 12. It can be more if you wanted that. And what concepts do you want to convey? Is it products? Then which products do you want to talk about? Is it a process? Like with the home buying book, we break down the different steps and then come up with image ideas, and brainstorm them.
Yeah.
And so then once we have that initial brainstorming session, then we get to work and we come up with the designs and with the text. Sometimes the customer provides the text. And then after we come up with something, we sit down, we meet again and talk about them and see, if they want revisions, do they like it before it comes together. And so most books in the end have somewhere between 28 and 36 pages total.
Wow.
Because,
Wow. Yeah.
because you have 8 or 12 coloring images, then you have the descriptions, you have the welcome page,
Okay,
the
I get
about
it.
us page, all of that, So,
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
and then we go to print and we deliver the book. It really is pretty simple for the customer. We try to make it as easy as possible. We're just very particular about getting their ideas and what they want out of it and what they want to use it for.
Yeah, how much fun. That just sounds like a blast
It
sitting there
is.
and brainstorming with them to really
Yeah,
create something so unique that,
yeah,
you're just not going to see this anywhere. It's just such a
yeah.
statement. So, of course, as small businesses or any business, I'm used to saying the
Yeah, it
word
doesn't have to
small,
be. Yeah,
but you can do that. But culture to color goes beyond just selling those products, right? Because a lot of your books, the ones that you initially started out with, really fosters like that culture and understanding that culture. And, you know, you've got two different things that you kind of work with, right? You're working with different cultures and then you're working with businesses. What's that like? Like split, like it has, I picture it as like one part of your brain does this and the other part does that. Are they both pretty similar or is it a little bit different? Like,
yeah.
is there something you love
Well,
about each?
I love it all because I learn new things with every book that we create, about, different companies and what they do and why they do it and their products or,
Yeah.
what their business is. I learned something and I like that. I love learning new things. And also the creative part of it. I never used to think of myself as very creative until, just recently more. I realized that I'm very creative. And so um, I like it all. I do still do some books as just pure passion projects because I want to do them. And sometimes they find me, like that last book about the Berlin airlift,
Yeah.
that story found me. And it's all good. It's all just being creative,
Yeah.
whether it's for a business or for a destination. It's about culture, it's about creating community and connecting people. We're so divided today on so many issues, and this is a way to connect people and create community, and whether that's about your flooring material or airplanes flying in and out of a city or a children's menu in a coloring book.
Right? How fun. How
Yeah,
that's so
yeah,
fun. So when you first started Culture to Color, it is unique. I don't know if anybody does what you do. And if they do, it's not that common because this was the first I had heard about it when I heard
yeah,
about you. What was that like in the beginning, getting out this totally new concept of an idea that nobody really were
yeah.
people confused like what do you do? Like what was that like?
Every time still happens
Okay.
because it's it's so unique, and in that it's challenging because we're the really the pretty much the only ones doing it. Nobody does it. There's a couple of companies, but they don't do it quite like we do with as much text and branding and all of that. So there's that. It's a challenge, but then again, it's also an opportunity because we're the only ones doing it,
Yeah.
And when I go somewhere like to these networking meetings, I'm sure you've been
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Um, and I say we create explainer coloring books as marketing tool. They're like looking at me kind of blank, and they're like, "What?" And maybe they're thinking kids, or that's not for me. And so until I pull out a book and show it to them, and then their eyes light up and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so unique and so interesting. I love the idea.
Yeah.
People get totally psyched about it when I pull out the books.
I would
I
agree. I
always
would
carry
agree.
a heavy book bag with me.
Yeah, well, you have to with what you do because
Yeah,
it really is. It's not something that is common. So it's like, what? And I know I had that moment. I'm like, I don't quite understand until I saw it. Then I'm like, oh, wow. Now I
yeah,
get it. Like, this is
yeah,
awesome. This is so
yeah.
unique. So when you first started off in the beginning, did you face some challenges as far as who you were marketing to, or did you know like this is how I'm going to market this and this is what I'm going to do, or was it a process to figure out?
Well, definitely a process, and we're still figuring it out, you know,
Yeah,
because
I
it's
get
not,
it.
yeah, I think that's an ongoing thing, no matter what you do. And as you know, because everything changes so fast with technology and stuff. And so it's definitely just like life, it's always a process, you're always learning and growing, hopefully. That's the way I like it.
Yeah.
And so definitely a process.
So in the beginning, let's just say, and I don't know if this happened to you, but I think in a lot of processes, I know that I've been through, and a lot of other entrepreneurs have been through, you get into the ring, you're confident, you're like, this is what I'm gonna do. And then you kind of get knocked down a little bit and you realize, oh wait, maybe
Well,
this is the wrong direction. Like maybe I need to tweak this. How did you overcome that? Because some entrepreneurs will quit. They're just like, oh, it
yeah.
didn't work out. You know what? This isn't for me. And they think that's the end all be all. But how did you get like keep trying or keep figuring it out?
Well, like I said, we've transitioned from creating, like in the beginning, I created these destination themed coloring books. Yes, they had some text, but I realized that it's a very difficult way to make money, because writing a book or creating a book and selling it on Amazon, you sell a book for 15 bucks on Amazon, you get maybe $1. And it's not an easy way to make money unless you sell millions of copies.
Yeah.
And so I realized that at some point. And so then I created a book about Tuscany, where in exchange for being in the coloring book, I went like on a sponsor trip to Tuscany, and we had all these like cooking classes and Vespa driving and balloon flying and all the things you do in Tuscany
Yeah.
in exchange for being in the coloring book. So I didn't pay for the trip, but I still paid for the book.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't the thing yet. Then COVID came, and out of that, longer story, I won't get into it, but I decided to do the first children's book, Endangered Animals of North America. Again, it's bilingual, this one English and Spanish, and it did very well, but I had people sponsor animals. So you'll see on different pages, you'll see names at the bottom, and I had them sponsor an animal, and that paid for the production of the book. And so then I thought, for sure, I could get into every aquarium and zoo in the country or in North America. And that was working out. Very difficult, turns out, to get into their gift shops.
Yeah.
So right around the time of the publication of this book, a nonprofit organization in San Francisco, Chinatown, reached out to me and asked me if I would do a book for them and about them, and they would pay me for it. And so when we sat down and talked together, that light bulb went on. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is a better business model. I'll do it for people who want the books, and they pay me to do them. And so out of that came the idea of making it a marketing company and creating them as marketing tools for businesses. And so now that's working. That's a viable business model. And that's kind of like the evolution so far.
Yes.
We'll see where else we go with it.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that because you shared a few things that I think are huge misconceptions. And the first thing is if you sell a book for $15 on Amazon, you might get $1, right? And those are
Yeah,
ballpark numbers. But I think a lot of people
yeah.
think, well, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to get all this money from them, right? And I've heard it time and time again, like, no, you really don't. So
It costs more money than you make
yeah,
doing it.
yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm glad
yeah,
you share that, right? Because I think for a lot of people that's a lesson because they don't realize that.
yeah,
And the other thing that you shared that I really like is that you have this book and it's successful and you're like, I'm going to sell it to aquariums and zoos and do all this stuff. And then you hear, no, no, no,
yeah.
no, not interested, right? And as entrepreneurs, I mean, we hear that a lot. So you need to really have some thick skin to say, I'm not giving up. Like, No,
Yeah,
I've got something I love. I know it's good, and I just have to wait it out and find where I fit. Like,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, you just keep trying, and you keep following your gut too. Like I feel like we have this, I don't know, inner guidance system or something, you listen to that. Like I would have never thought 6 years ago that I would, we've now published like 40 books.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and that I
Great.
would, be on the land that I would do anything with it. It just kind of happened and yeah, evolved. And I get to do all the things I love doing. I get to travel and take photos and talk to people and hear their stories. I love those things.
Isn't
And
it
be,
great when you find
yeah,
something, you get to do something you really
yeah,
love?
yeah, yeah.
I know it's so cliche, but it really is the best feeling.
It is. And then it's not work. Sometimes I'm like, I don't like I live in my office, you
Yeah.
know. It feels like that because I have a home office too, which is great.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So if somebody is listening right now and they're like, oh, I have this passion, whether it's photography like you had, or maybe it's actually creating something or sewing or whatever. And what advice would you give them to take that passion and turn it into a business, a successful business like you have?
Um, you have to, if you have an idea and you really want to do it, just do it and see what happens and what doors open because I feel like I had no idea what I was doing when I started. I didn't know how to make a book or publish a book or edit a book or any of it.
Yeah.
You just learn these things as you go along. You find good people who can help you make it happen, who know these things and are maybe willing to teach you if you want to learn. I don't want to, like me personally, I don't need to know all the aspects of what goes into it. Like I don't do the designs. I don't have the patience, the skill. It's not something I want to learn. So I find great designers to work with. But some other things, like I feel like I've become a decent editor, and I enjoy that. And I feel like such a nerd sometimes, and I make mistakes in something. And find a good team around you and just follow your gut and see what happens. And yeah, I find like magic happens when I step outside my comfort zone. If you want to do something but you're scared, do it anyway and just see what happens. I have a few examples from my life where scary as you know what, and I did it anyway because I wanted to overcome it, and then all kinds of doors opened,
Mm.
and that's really magical. I'm sure you've had an experience like that.
Yes, I have. Like,
Everybody who steps outside their comfort zone, if it's something you want to do, just go for it.
I love that because you do have to get uncomfortable. If you try to stay in that comfort zone, nothing's ever
Yeah,
going to happen there. It
yeah,
really isn't.
yeah.
So I love that you shared that. Bibi, how can my listeners find you if they're like, this is really cool? I've got to check out this coloring book for my business or my nonprofit or my community. How do they
Yeah.
find you?
Visit me on our website, culturetocolor.com, or send me an email, Bibi LeBlanc, no, bb@culturetocolor.com, or call me or reach out on social media. I'm not on TikTok, but I'm on the other ones. So
Well, Bibi, all your links are in the show notes. So if you guys are listening or you're watching on YouTube, all you have to do is scroll down to the notes. All the links to contact Bibi are there. So they're right at your fingertips. Bibi, thank you so much for coming on today. This was so exciting and
thank
I
you,
love your
Deanna.
product. I think it's so cool. So thank you for sharing it with everybody.
Yeah, thanks for letting me share it.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. We'll catch you next week. Bye.